The Boissonneau affair. Conservatives and New Democrats on the attack, calling for the ouster of a scandal-ridden minister. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
The members of the chorus calling for the resignation of scandal-plagued Minister of Employment Randy Boissonneau continues to grow. And it's not just Conservatives who think the Edmonton area MP should resign or be removed from cabinet by the Prime Minister. At least one NDP MP thinks it's time for the minister to go as well. Blake Desjardins is a New Democrat MP. He also represents an Edmonton area riding. And he says the Boissonneau affair creates victims because of race shifting.
The victims are the good people of Edmonton Centre who are embarrassed by what's taking place here in the House of Commons. Indigenous people aren't just the victims of what happened with Randy Boissonneau. What we're seeing is Indigenous people right across the country are being blamed for calling out what is a very real and legitimate concern, which is that pretendians continue to exist right across our country. This race shifting that's taking place is very concerning. What we're seeing is Indigenous or non-Indigenous people claiming to be Indigenous for the purpose of accessing benefits. We see this right across the country, whether it's in arts and media, whether it's in academia, or whether it's here in the House of Commons. We must get a grapple with the fact that people are abusing these systems for narrow benefit. This is happening across the country. We need to see action when it comes to ensuring the justice for Indigenous people, justice for the good people of Edmonton Centre, and that means Randy Boissonneau must resign.
Boissonneau is accused of many things. He denies most of them. He claimed to be Indigenous. He was a member of the Liberal Party's Indigenous Caucus. A company he is part owner of claimed to have Indigenous ownership, allegedly so it could bid on contracts that were supposed to go to Indigenous-owned businesses. And that same company shared a post office box with a woman who was detained in 2 major cocaine busts. Boissonneau says he never knew that woman, never met that woman. In the House of Commons, it's been a feeding frenzy for opposition MPs who then seemed to run afoul of the Speaker of the House. For example, this was Conservative MP Andrew Scheer.
Well, we don't know what it'll take for this guy to get fired from this Prime Minister. We do know what will get you fired. Remember Jody Wilson-Raybould? Yeah. She was fired for telling the truth about the Prime Minister's attempts to interfere in a criminal case. Here's what she had to say. A Prime Minister committed to true reconciliation would have removed this minister and the other Randy from cabinet long ago. Instead, we get to watch white people play Ancestry Wheel of Fortune. Ouch. How come under this Prime Minister, a strong Indigenous woman gets fired for telling the truth when a weak, fake Indigenous man gets to keep his job after lying?
The Speaker of the House, Greg Fergus, a Liberal MP, didn't like Mr. Scheer using the word fake.
I'm going to ask the honourable member from Regina Capel, who once sat in this chair, to withdraw that one word which was directly used to another member, which would not be considered parliamentary, and ask the honourable member to do so.
I'll withdraw the word lying and replace it with telling falsehoods.
Then it was Michael Barrett's turn. He's another Conservative MP.
That minister can't seem to tell the truth to save his own life. So Randy or other Randy or pretend Indigenous Randy, none of them should be in cabinet. Why won't they fire this fraudster?
Again, for the second day in a row, I'm going to ask the honourable member from Leeds Granville to, the very last part of his question, using language which just can't pass in this place. The honourable member, will he just simply withdraw that question and then we can move on? Withdraw that word and then we could just simply move on.
The word fraudster is withdrawn.
And Michelle Rempel Garner, another Conservative MP, also found herself in hot water for also calling Randy Boissonneau a fraud.
As Jody Wilson-Raybould said today, the Prime Minister is making a mockery of reconciliation and is enabling, quote, white people playing ancestry wheel of fortune. That fraudulent minister must resign, or the Prime Minister must fire him.
Yes, honourable member, just to withdraw that word so that we can move on.
Mr. Speaker, I was quoting a Cree lawyer who called the minister a fraud. He is a fraud, and I don't withdraw.
And her refusal to do that got her tossed from the House of Commons by the Speaker of the House. So was Michael Barrett, and so was Nova Scotia Conservative MP Rick Perkins. Now, he wasn't admonished for calling Randy Boissonnault a fraud, but rather for calling the Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, corrupt.
When will the Prime Minister come clean? Send the uncensored documents to the RCMP, and including everything that this corrupt Environment Minister is involved in.
This is not going to be a surprise to members. I'm going to ask the honourable member from South Shore St. Margaret's to remove that word, which he knows, into talking about the honourable minister. And I'm going to ask the honourable member to simply withdraw those words.
I'll withdraw those words that stuffed his pockets with.
I'm going to ask the honourable member just to simply withdraw the words, and we will move on.
He stuffed his pockets with the money. I'm sorry, he's not corrupt. He stuffed his pockets.
So that's been the theater of question period this week. And just a reminder, other than what you've just heard, no other business is getting done in the House of Commons because of the ongoing standoff over documents related to the Green Slush Fund. And it has been going on for more than a month. Your House of Commons today remains paralyzed. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
You have questions
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
on News Radio.
Well, as we told you, the opposition parties in Ottawa have their sights set on Cabinet Minister Randy Boissonnault, the Employment Minister. They insist he resign from Cabinet or be removed from Cabinet by Prime Minister Trudeau because of the minister's many scandals. Meanwhile, nothing is getting done in the House of Commons because of another scandal, the Green Slush Fund. That's had things at a standstill for more than a month. Michael Barrett is a Conservative member of Parliament. He's also a member of the Ethics Committee. Thanks for joining us today, Mr. Barrett.
Thanks for having me on, Rob.
What will you do to try and get more information about the claims made about Randy Boissonnault?
So the Ethics Committee passed a motion to have Randy Boissonnault come back to committee to answer for frankly, the lies that he's told. It's now been demonstrated that what he's testified to in the past turned out not to be true once we got the receipts, so to speak. For example, him saying that he wasn't directing his company while he was in cabinet, but then we learned that he was, and forced an admission on that. He had his company that he owns 50% of had applied for contracts that were for Indigenous-owned companies, and Randy Boissonnault himself now says that he's not Indigenous, nor did he ever claim to be, except of course in that contract or that government application that they completed, and this is all with the backdrop now that his company, his former business partner, are being investigated for fraud by the Edmonton Police Service. And any one of these things would be enough to get you fired from any job or from any other government's cabinet. But it doesn't seem to have pushed him out just yet by Mr. Trudeau's standards. So we're going to continue to press for answers about his changing story at committee and in the House of Commons, because it's problematic when a guy who owned 50% of a company says he had nothing to do with any of the misdeeds of that pandemic profiteering company, but he's in charge of a federal government department. So he couldn't run a two-man company, but now he's in charge of a federal government, and his previous claims about being a journalist have also been debunked in the media. So we're really not sure who Randy Boissonnault is, except today he remains a cabinet minister in Justin Trudeau's government, and he really shouldn't be.
But at the core, I think, of the alleged ethics breach would be, if you are a cabinet minister, you cannot be part of a company that is bidding on government contracts, yes? Isn't it really that black and white, Mr. Barrett?
It absolutely is, and his company bid on a government contract in the last year and was awarded that contract by Elections Canada, while Randy Boissonnault sat around the cabinet table.
Okay, let's move on to other things because our time is tight today. What can the government do to satisfy your party's demands, along with, I should say, all of the other opposition parties, on documents related to the so-called Green Slush Fund, so that the House of Commons could move beyond this matter of privilege that has taken up so much time in the House? What can the government do to satisfy your demands?
Well, to end the paralyzed Parliament caused by Justin Trudeau's corruption, and they could end it today by turning over the documents in an unredacted form to the law clerk of the House of Commons to be transmitted to the RCMP. It's really that simple. And it's an order of the House. It was a legal and lawful order of Parliament to the government to have them produce those documents and turn them over to the RCMP. What the government has said, well, we've turned over some documents. They're turning over redacted documents and not even a complete set. But this is, again, it's the rule of law that seems to be a real challenge for the Trudeau Liberals, because they've received a lawful order to do something and they refuse. So that's why they've yet to find a dance partner to end this. But it's really simple. We're prepared to move on with the other business in the House, but it remains paralyzed because of this $400 million corruption scandal. And Justin Trudeau, if he's got nothing to hide, he shouldn't be too nervous about sending the documents over to the RCMP. But I think it's quite telling that he refuses to.
But there could come a time when this paralysis in the House causes what I would call a cash crunch, a funding shortfall for government departments, because supply bills could not be passed, which is a rather routine thing in the House of Commons. Basically, you need to pass a supply bill through the House of Commons before the government can spend any money. But if the government can't pass any bills, that could mean a funding shortfall and potentially lead to, I guess, a Canadian-style government shutdown. What if it comes to that, Mr. Barrett?
There's no supply in our system without the confidence of the House, and so the government would need to be tested on a matter of confidence before being given supply. And the only items that are on the parliamentary calendar for the remainder of this week is the matter of privilege. And so, if the government finds itself in a situation where they need to give the opposition their allotted days, and they need to put a matter of supply in front of the House, they can simply transmit the documents to the RCMP, and we'll be on to the government's legislative priorities the same day.
Okay, thank you for your time today.
Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, very good to hear from you. Michael Barrett, Conservative Member of Parliament, Leeds Grenville, that's in Eastern Ontario. He's the ethics critic for the official opposition and a member of the Ethics Committee. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Here alongside David Smith on a Wednesday. Great to be with you again today, David. I should remind people, if they're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to, at your leisure. It is called the Seeker app. Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. All kinds of exclusive audio you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. And you can download Seeker for iOS or Android Seeker, spelled Seekr. And this show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Maybe I should become, David, a crypto podcaster.
Sure.
That's a thing, right? People are making a living doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm learning more about the crypto world. I don't own any Bitcoins or meme coins or tokens or anything like that. I have no skin in the game, although sometimes I wish I did. The Bitcoin, David, hit another new all-time high today.
Another one.
Of almost $95,000 US.
Oh my God.
$95,000 US.
Like
I think the last time we were talking about this, wasn't it like nudging up against 80,000? And here it is, it's nudging up against $100,000. 94,861 US, David. Currently, it is trading at, for one Bitcoin, 131,243 Canadian dollars. Bitcoin has now doubled in a year, David.
Doubled
in
a year. Doubled.
It has
like
doubled
100%.
in price in a year. Yeah, and it's gone on this incredible run since Donald Trump became the president of the United States, or president-elect of the United States, and won the election. I guess seemed very friendly to the crypto world. And I'm learning new terms all the time about this crypto trading, like rug pulling. Have you ever heard of this before? Rug pulling?
No, doesn't sound good.
No,
doesn't sound
good. So I guess you can create, if you're in the crypto trading space, you can create your own token.
Sure. Okay.
And you can put it out there onto platforms and people can buy it and sell it, right? But there's a scam, I guess you would call it, called rug pulling. It's kind of like pump and dump, I guess, in stocks, like in penny stocks or whatever. So this involves like a trader creates a coin and then they pump it and then people buy it and then they pull the rug out from under them and they disappear with all the money. It's called rug pulling in the crypto space. And some kid, he's only described as a Gen Z trader, tried to do this. Okay. So he creates his own coin. Gosh, I didn't know how to, I was playing Coleco head-to-head baseball when I was this kid's age. This guy creates his own token called the Quant token, Gen Z Quant token, puts it on a platform called pump.fun, which I guess should tell you something. And he's trying to pull the rug. Okay. He gets these people interested in it, and then he sells all of his tokens and he makes 30 grand.
Wow.
Not bad for a young guy, right? Makes 30 grand, right? Then the crypto community turned on him and they all came in and they bought this token, and they ran the value of all of these tokens up to $90 million. So if that kid had hung on to all of his tokens, he could have sold them for $4 million. Instead, he made 30 grand.
Ouch. That's crypto. That's crypto.
You got to be careful out there, though. You might get the rug pulled out from under you by some Gen Z crypto trader. It's a crazy world. Newsday panel just ahead on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio. The Newsday panel.
And the gang's all here. It's time for the Newsday panel. Chris Sims is the Alberta director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Chris has also been a journalist, a colleague of mine, and has worked as a staffer on Parliament Hill. How are you?
Wonderful. There's a bit of snow on the ground out here in Lethbridge.
Oh,
Rob,
really?
So your namesake is here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it is that time. I have my snow tires on. I am ready.
Good boy.
Cam Holmstrom is with us, a longtime NDP strategist who also worked on Parliament Hill. And when he is not attending the speed skating sessions of his daughter at various rinks across Ontario, he is the principal of Nipa Way Strategies. How are you?
Very good. I made sure my snow tires were on for last weekend just in case a snowstorm hit on our way there. So
There you go. And you'll have to get back up to the homestead and get the skidoo ready, Cam, and everything, So,
oh, Rob, you're making me homesick now. You have to go and do that. Geez.
Okay. Well, look, let's talk about Randy Boissonnault, what I call l'affaire Boissonnault. It works in both languages. I mean, come on, people. Who among us hasn't shared a mailbox with alleged cocaine dealers? I mean, what is there to see here? In crisis communications, there's an old adage, try to figure out where the finish line is and get there first. I don't think the Liberals have quite figured that out yet. So let me ask you, Cam, how do you see this ending for the Liberals and Randy Boissonnault?
Badly. But you know what? It's like, honestly, I can't, like, to me, there's so many parts of this story that have come up that if taken by themselves, if they were isolated incidents and the rest didn't happen, those would have been firing offenses in past times in any other cabinet, right? Even frankly, in this cabinet, right, with this prime minister in his early days. So why is he holding on so steadfast? And the damage that it's doing, like, honestly, his standing with the Indigenous community is already tenuous enough, right? With a lot of promises that have not been kept, and the approach, and of course the whole Jody Wilson-Raybould piece that happened years ago. It's not exactly, he's not exactly in great stead. I could not have picked a more hot button issue than pretendidism and fake identity claiming and all of that within the Indigenous community than this right now. Like, this is the hot button issue, and to somehow having this come up now, right, and not realizing he's got to go immediately, right? It's political malpractice. At this point, all I can think of is that really at the end of the day is that they think that their poop doesn't stink and that somehow they're going to get away with this. It's all going to work out. But you know what? That's the same rationale that's kept Justin Trudeau in his seat to this point. So I guess in for a penny, in for a pound.
Okay. Chris, how do you see this ending?
I agree with Cam. I think he's cooked. And every time I'd read another element of this story, it would be another one of those, wait, what? Moments? Every single time. Like, I thought it had gone completely off the rails when this absurd, oh, that was the other Randy quote came out in committee. It's like, what? Are we dealing with a child who can't tell the truth? Or are we talking about a grown man who's a member of parliament and a cabinet minister in a capital city of Alberta? It's bizarre. And now we have these allegations that he shared a mailbox at a UPS store, which, anybody can go rent one, and that apparently it was at the same time as somebody who's been previously charged with cocaine. Like, and this wasn't one of those things where he did it for like a few weeks.
The exact language in the reports was detained in 2 cocaine busts. Detained.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you keep reading it and you're thinking, now to be fair, maybe they've got the names wrong. It's one of those things where it's so strange that I'm having trouble believing it. But at the end of the day, you're right. Now we've got this crisis communication situation where we literally have Pierre Poilievre sharing tweets from Jody Wilson-Raybould dunking on the Prime Minister's judgment. This is getting pretty gnarly.
Yeah, let's listen. The Prime Minister in Brazil asked about this at the G20 by a news reporter. Do you still support your employment minister? Let's listen here.
Can you explain to Canadians then who've been reading all these reports why you still have confidence in Minister Boissonnault?
Minister Boissonnault has addressed these and will continue to answer directly for those. In the meantime, I'm happy that he is continuing to lead on issues around jobs and employment and represent Alberta in our government.
He's happy. He's happy. I'm sure he is.
Doesn't sound happy.
He's happy. Okay.
Answer directly is a key term there, I think. That's my takeaway from that.
Yeah, and representing Alberta, does it all come down to that, Chris? They have such slim pickings in Alberta that they need someone in cabinet from Alberta, and even if it's this guy, it has to be this guy?
It doesn't matter. Like, when they want to do something for Alberta, they just send the finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, out here. Like, they really don't. I wouldn't. It doesn't seem to be worth the comms beating that they're taking. And now he's being asked about it while he's on an international trip. Like, that's going to sting.
But you know, though, it's also political capital he's burning on this. Like, really, at the end of the day, like, he has, like, I cannot underestimate the kind of damage this is doing with us in the Indigenous community. Seriously. Like, this, it does not get much more low than this. And it's something that for so many of us we're dealing with. Or we talked about this last week, Rob. The fact is that this is a hot button issue, and we're concerned that, frankly, another government will come in and do away with this program altogether because of these errors that have happened, right? Yep. So if you're the Prime Minister and you can't even bring yourself to hold your own cabinet minister to account for this, who, again, what the heck is he doing that in this period of time when he's an MP, let alone anything else? If you can't hold him to account, then you don't give us any faith that you're actually going to fix this problem, and then all of a sudden we're left further behind. We're less worse off. If anyone's facing the consequences, it's us, not Randy.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can, Rob, quickly. Cabinet ministers are supposed to set the tone and lead, right, for their departments. And so if they can't even have accountability at that level, how are they supposed to hold bureaucrats to account when they take a look at these employment roles or these ones that are trying to get grants every 2-ish years to decide if a company is truly Indigenous or First Nations or Métis-led, and they get around to it every couple of years, and they find people that aren't entitled to this and are taking advantage of the system? Cam's right. This is going to affect that program.
It's a great angle. Let's pick up on that when we come back. It's our Newsday panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Okay, we're here with Cam Holmstrom, longtime NDP strategist, principal at Nipaway Strategies. Cam is Métis, and he is a Métis business owner. So it makes it of great interest to have someone with some knowledge about these issues. Chris Sims, of course, is the Alberta director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. And on the surface, I mean, the Indigenous procurement program, it makes a lot of sense. Let's set aside 5% of all government procurement for Indigenous-led firms, so that in Indigenous communities, it can hire Indigenous people, improve the welfare in some of these communities. It's about $1.6 billion a year, but it seems to be a program that has been taken advantage of, that has been exploited. Is recently reported 1,100, and I'm using air quotes here, Indigenous businesses were removed from the directory, the Indigenous Business Directory. The government says, it's just a cleanup of businesses that were registered before 2019. But let me read you a quote from one of these news stories. It was an open secret within Ottawa's procurement community that non-Indigenous companies have been finding ways to get around the program's rules in order to gain access to billions in annual contracts meant for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit businesses. An open secret. Cam, what do you think went wrong here with this program?
First off, the details, the oversight, it hasn't been there, right? And for the fact that, when I first formed my business, Nipaway, back in 2022, this was just after they had actually started verifying people, right? So I've been through that process. I know what I had to provide and what I had to do. And to be very honest, if you are legitimately who you say you are, it's not that hard a thing to do. It's not a big onerous task to come up with, right? It's actually pretty straightforward. But I think for those of us in the Indigenous community, in the Indigenous business community in particular, we are used to having to explain who we are, where we're from, who claims us, right? That's, what community are we a part of, what nation are we a part of, and who claims us. So honestly, if somebody asks me the question, the irony is that I'm not put off by it. I actually welcome it. I actually think it's a good sign that you actually know what you're talking about and you know what you're looking for, right? That's the kind of person I want to work with, because you get it. Unfortunately, the lack of curiosity from government to go and look into this has been frustrating. And the frustrating part of it is that for a lot of Indigenous businesses, the fact of the matter is, most of us are smaller. Many are startups. We're starting from further behind, right?
Sure.
So it's already hard enough to compete when you're talking about competing with larger businesses or the scales that come with it. The only way you're going to get there is by getting business like this to help us grow, right? Yet at the same time, when you have people who come in and will do like a rent-a-feather situation, as we call it, where you put an Indigenous person up front, but really it's non-Indigenous back to the hilt, and there's no benefit flowing through.
Right.
They're getting the business. That's getting suction away, and those of us who are so small remain small, and we're never able to compete. So yeah, it's you know what? To me, it's well-meaning, but that has to be followed up with the actual follow-through in the details. And if I have one criticism for this government, it is they may have ideas on big ideas and plans, and they may be good at that. They are terrible at the day-to-day details. They are terrible at that point. And this is what happens.
Deliverology. Rent-a-feather. I never heard of that before. Rent-a-feather. Okay. All right. I mean, Chris, it makes me wonder, what would you start finding out if you started pulling on the threads here?
Oh, you'd find out that a lot of those in government don't bother doing their jobs. This is entirely on the head of the department and the minister. This is their job to make sure that the folks who are applying for these grants are who they say they are. It's not that hard, like Cam just said. Just make sure you've got all your data and your ducks in a row, make sure they are who they say they are, and go for it. But in this case, there's just way too many bureaucrats and way too many staff not doing their job. We just found data that shows that our spending on our bureaucracy in Canada is up by like 70% since Trudeau took power. He has added more than 100,000 bureaucrats to the rank and file. The average salary now, Rob, is more than $100,000. So the average, that's including the new, junior staffers first joining government. So if they're only bothering to glance at these roles every 2-ish years and report back to us, that's just not acceptable. That's not acceptable for the folks who are legitimately getting these grants and wanting to work earnestly, and it's not acceptable for the taxpayer either, because not only is it a waste of money, but it erodes trust and it sours people on these things. That's a really bad thing, and it's hard to turn people back around once they've lost that trust. So this is all on that minister and the bureaucrats.
Okay. When we come back, are we headed for some kind of Canadian version of a U.S.-style government shutdown because of this paralysis in the House of Commons? We'll ask our panelists that. It's the Newsday panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
We're back with Chris Sims, the Alberta director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and Cam Holmstrom, the principal of Nipaway Strategies. Both know their way around Parliament Hill and have seen House business operate, not operate over the years. And for more than a month, the House of Commons has been paralyzed because of this green slush fund. The opposition parties managed to pass a motion saying, give us all the documents, unredacted documents related to your green slush fund scandal, Sustainable Technology Development Canada, that was so rife with conflict of interest, the government even shut it down after all. Here's the thing, though. Because nothing is getting done because of what I would call this quasi-filibuster, it could start impacting government operations. Because the government needs to be funded, and it does that through something called supply motions. The government can't spend $1 without the House of Commons saying, you can spend that dollar. And they do that through these supply motions. And because everything is tied up now, no government business can be dealt with until this is dealt with. These supply motions won't be able to pass. Government operations might not be funded. What do you think is going to happen the closer it gets to that point, Chris Sims?
I think that the Trudeau government's going to have to blink, because it was really refreshing to see so many parties saying, cough up the documents. This is about transparency and accountability. There's apparently something like 180 different conflicts of interest that are in these documents, and that's what the House ordered them to cough up. I think it was back in June, Rob, that these parties ganged up on the government and said, cough up these documents for accountability, meaning taxpayers' money is being wasted and or there are severe conflicts of interest. So the government's got a really simple solution here. They just need to do this.
Cam, what do you think?
Personally, I'm somewhat bemused by this because, I believe in the transparency piece because you know what? The governments have tried this kind of stuff before. I still remember back to 2009, 2010 when we had the Afghan detainee scandal and Stephen Harper prorogued the House rather than obey the House's order to turn over papers to the MPs in that case, right? And what's funny, I was reading back up on that. The Liberals at the time, it was Ralph Goodale of all people, called it beyond hypocrisy and near dictatorial. While the Conservatives were like, no, we're just focused on the economy, and you guys are going on, right? Well, wow, talk about shoes on the other feet at this point, right? The only difference here in this case is that we haven't had supply motions passed. Typically, it would happen right before the House would rise before the holidays. So the fact of the matter is that, in theory, they could keep going for a little while longer. In theory, there's enough money there to get them through probably March. If that's still the case and those numbers are right, I would expect Prime Minister Trudeau to kind of do what Prime Minister Harper did back then, prorogue. Because you prorogue, you come back in January when you're supposed to reset whatever anyway, and that motion magically vanishes and disappears.
Goes away.
It goes away. Poof. We would never know it was there, and then they go and finance. But you know what? If he actually has to prorogue, again, that's not a sign of strength. That's an absolute sign of weakness and cowardice, frankly, as it was when Mr. Harper did it back in 2009.
All right, Chris, you're in Lethbridge, right?
Yes.
All right, we only have about 45 seconds left. Where is Naheed Nenshi gonna run to try and get a seat in the legislature? It's not going to be Lethbridge, is it?
Well, he should have, because his MLA is his MLA in Lethbridge West. There's 2 ridings here. And that was an NDP seat, and she resigned her seat. So logic dictates he should have run there. Premier Danielle Smith, her riding is technically over in Medicine Hat, like 2 hours away from me. It's not in Calgary. It's not even in High River where she lives. But bizarrely, this was crazy. I don't know if Cam or you have ever heard this before. He's telling Danielle Smith to get one of her cabinet ministers to resign so he can run. A UCP cabinet minister. He's saying, give up your seat for me to run in Calgary. It's kind of weird.
Okay. Well, there's never a dull moment in that part of the country, that's for sure. Thank you. Chris and Cam, great to hear from you. All the best. Bye-bye. That's our Newsday panel. My gosh, there's a lot happening. Okay, Talkback is coming up next. It's going to be a good one today, I think. I'm going to ask you 2 classic pollster questions. Get your answers to them when we come back. 2 hours of Talkback just ahead on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today we're going to be asking you to answer 2 classic pollster questions. Question number 1. Do you think the country is headed in the right direction or the wrong direction? Do you think the country is headed in the right direction or the wrong direction? That's the first one. The second one is, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? That's all we really want to know today. Your answers to both of those questions. Do you think the country is headed in the right direction or the wrong direction? And are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? Pollsters ask these questions all the time, of course, so we want to take some time today, just run them by you. We want your answers and, why you feel the way you do. And it's not just about the job that the federal government is doing, the Trudeau Liberals, supported in large measure by the NDP. We don't want to turn it into some kind of pile on. It's also about what's happening in the province where you live, whether it's Nova Scotia or Alberta or Ontario, or if you're listening online, anywhere else in the country. I mean, provincial governments have big budgets, big responsibilities as well. It's provincial governments that are in charge of things like the healthcare system, the education system. We're all paying provincial taxes as well, and we could even get hyper-local. Talk about things happening in your own communities with, municipalities are trying to deal with so many big issues and finding themselves having to bring in big raises in property taxes lately. In fact, the increases in property taxes were highlighted yesterday by StatsCan as one of the reasons for the most recent increase in the inflation rate. Right direction, wrong direction. If you think the country is headed in the right direction, why do you feel that way? What is it about things that makes you think the country's headed in the right direction? And of course, if you think the country's headed in the wrong direction, why do you feel that way as well? Where are we going wrong? As for the second question, better off, worse off, in your own life, with your own family, within your own household. When you think back about how you were doing, say, 4 years ago, back at the end of 2020, we're all dealing with the pandemic. Don't want to go back there. Dealing with lockdowns, everything pandemic related. It was a crazy time. Hopefully all in the rearview mirror now. And then fast forward 4 years. How are things going for you now? 4 years later, as we approach the close of 2024. And we're all, 4 years older, and maybe a few of you are 4 years wiser. I don't know. What would you say? Would you say you're doing better now? Are you better off than you were 4 years ago, or are you worse off than you were 4 years ago? Just give us your honest answer. Really want to know your answers and the reasons behind those answers, why you feel the way you do. Is the country, headed in the right direction, the wrong direction? Are you better off? Are you worse off than you were 4 years ago? Our phone lines are open right now, and all opinions are welcome around here. I'm just going to try and be the moderator today. I may play devil's advocate here and there, but I'd really love to take as many calls as we can fit in and over the course of the next couple of hours. So the number to call, 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that to the call screener, will you? And we'll make your call a priority. We'd love to hear from you for the very first time as we ask these two classic pollster questions today and get your explanation behind your answers. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? And why do you feel the way you do? That's question number one. And again, question number two is, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? Think back to November of 2020, fast forward to now, November of 2024. How are you doing now compared to then? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Going to stop just a little bit early here today. And then hopefully when we come back, we'll have lots of calls and we'll get the conversation going. It's Talkback on a Wednesday. And I'm Rob Snow. David is standing by. Andrea is standing by. They're ready to take your call right now on these two questions. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on a Wednesday. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're asking two classic pollster questions today. I want to know your answers. Why you feel the way you do. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? That's question number one. Question number two, are you better off, worse off than you were 4 years ago? Mike in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, first-time caller today. Hello, Mike.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. Good to hear from you. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction, Mike?
Currently the wrong direction.
Okay. Why do you say that?
And, I say that because, I'm just retired. I'm 74. I was a professional, self-employed.
Okay.
Income tax is, believe it or not, when you retire, is one of the biggest expenses. Consumption taxes, the size of the federal government, and provincial governments have the same problem. And the whole idea of hold the line and hold spending on programs doesn't seem to be on the table.
Okay.
So if we keep going in this direction with, I look at Ottawa mainly, because that's what we mainly hear about, as the deficit goes up, it's no different than I look at my finances. If you overspend, is going to cost you, and it's costing Canadians now with debt payments.
Right.
And
so
we're in
spending,
the wrong directions. We're going to have
deficit,
to have some
taxes,
tightening belts.
belt tightening. Okay. All right. You'd like to see some belt tightening. So the second question, better off, worse off than 4 years ago? What would you say?
Worse off.
Worse off, and what's behind that? Why would you say that?
As I said before, is carbon tax has put the cost of goods up. Groceries are going up. I mean, I can't complain. I mean, people would say, well, you're not doing all right. And but I look at the cost, I track it, and the big cost is transportation and groceries. And there's only two of us. I don't know how people with if we still had kids, it'd be unbelievable.
It'd be really tough for you. Okay, all right.
Wouldn't be tough, but you'd notice it. And I can't complain. That's our income is quite good.
You're doing
Still,
okay.
You see it.
Right. You're doing okay, but you're not doing as well as you were 4 years ago.
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No,
All right,
I'm
Mike.
concerned for people who like the example in Toronto, who making $80,000 a year and can't make ends meet. It's the same thing down here, but not the high incomes, but in Nova Scotia. Like Halifax, you don't see it as much because it's basically a government town. But once you get outside in the rural areas, things are tough.
All right, Mike. Very, very informative call today. Thank you for your call. Good to hear from you. All right, let's go to Hakim in Calgary. You're on the air, Hakim. Good to hear from you. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
I think it's moving in the wrong direction.
Why do you say that?
Because they want us to pay more taxes in those crisis economy, carbon tax, and when the economy is not doing good, so why you are taxing people more? Plus, we are having huge housing problem and job problems. 4 years ago, my friend, I used to quit jobs and I used to jump from job to other. I mean, I have no problem. I used to rent. I have no problem. But now it's tough. It's tough to own house. It's tough to pay, taxes. And on top of that, my question to this government, when the economy is going slow, so why you want people, Canadians, to pay more taxes? Carbon taxes, I disagree with them because it's not the right time. Plus, the more you tax people, the more the economy will slow down. So I think I don't see anything going in the right direction. To be honest with you,
let me ask you, Hakim. You mentioned I used to have this job and I could switch to that job and go back to another job. Is it harder to find jobs now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Before I'm talking about surviving jobs. But since they allow a lot of international immigration and stuff like that, don't get me wrong, I'm not against immigration. I am myself immigrant, but they allow a wrong amount of people, lots in the wrong timing. Sure. In Calgary here, I'm telling you, I used to, like I said, ask anybody. 4 years ago, we used to have before that. I would say before the coronavirus, for sure. It was you can easily find surviving job. I'm not saying you can find the job you are trained for or in your trade.
Right. Okay.
But surviving job Walmart, whatever, Costco, just surviving. I think.
So when I ask you, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? What do you say? You're worse off.
I am definitely worse off, man. I'm telling you, I am scared, to be honest with you. The good thing with me is I have a good credit, so I can maybe manage a little bit. But yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay. All the best to you, Hakim. Good to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There's a couple of free lines there, everybody. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? Greg in Kitchener. Hi, Greg.
Hey.
Country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
Wrong direction.
Okay, why is that?
These expensive green initiatives being shoved down our throats that nobody can afford. I'd say nobody, but the mid to lower class can't afford these green initiatives, electric cars and all that kind of stuff. And the high taxes, it's crippling people.
Okay, high taxes, environmental programs. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Overspending, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so headed in the wrong direction. Question number 2: Are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago?
I'm going to say worse, and the way I measure it is I'm on a fixed income retired, and it's my ability to have disposable income. So that's very it's harder to come by now than it was 4 years ago.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, sure, I know what you mean. Yeah, you're preaching to the converted there.
Like you should be able to afford a good steak, my friend.
Yeah, okay.
I heard you mention that you can't. You know, it's not that you couldn't probably, but it's just ridiculous.
Well, I suppose I could. I just can't justify it to myself to spend that much on a cut of meat, you know?
Right.
I would almost feel guilty by spending that much on one, when there are other cuts of meat there that are more affordable that I could, would provide more value for my budget,
Right. Yeah.
Even though I would really like to have a good steak on my barbecue or whatever the case might be. It's kind of crazy. It's the same way I'm eating. And I make a good living, don't get me wrong. And my wife makes a good living, and it's just the two of us, and we're very blessed. But I do find myself, I'm not buying chicken breast anymore. I'm buying like thighs and legs and stuff like this, stuff I never used to eat. So it's kind of weird that way.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have to watch it. We
you've got to really watch it
anymore either. So.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
I have a couple of kids who hardworking families, but I call them the working poor because 2 kids, 2 cars, 2 jobs, and if there's one crisis, they're calling dad for help, and that's not right.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Okay, Greg, good to hear from you, sir. Thanks for calling. We'll stop here. More of your calls just ahead as we ask 2 classic pollster questions today. They ask it all the time in politics. Are we moving in the right direction or the wrong direction as a country? And you, personally, and your family, better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577 on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have 2 classic questions today in politics. Want to know your answers. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? 1-833-668-2577. Aman in Waterloo, first-time caller. Aman, hello.
Hey, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good, Aman. What would you say? Do you think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
On the specific subject of home affordability, I think it's headed in the wrong direction. And not using human capital in the right direction, as in everybody's complaining about so many people in Canada coming in. But only if they could be put to use in trades and building more homes with a cheaper input as to labor, then we would have more homes, and that would make the affordability better for people to have homes.
Yes, but the people that we're bringing in need to have the appropriate skills.
Yes,
to build homes, right? We don't want unskilled people building homes for people to live in.
That'd be dangerous.
It's one thing to make a coffee at Tim Hortons. I've done that. I made lots of coffee at Tim Hortons. I worked there for a number of years when I was in high school. But you wouldn't want me to be your carpenter and build your house for you.
That's true. That's why instead of these business courses, if those courses were more for enhancing skills, as in carpentry or plumbing or masonry work or like construction of actual homes, that would pay off far better in building this country as compared to just business courses that end up like no real skills there.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Now, would you say personally that you are better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago back in 2020? Late 2020?
Would say I'm better off.
You're better off. Okay.
4 years ago, yeah.
And why is that, sir?
Hard work and consistently working. I started as a customer service rep, moved on to trucking for a few years, and then now I'm self-employed.
Good for you. Doing what kind of work, sir?
I'm in real estate.
In real estate, okay.
Yes, I'm a realtor. And
A realtor, okay.
Yeah, and my wife, she gave her exams, kept working, and now she's a lawyer here.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
That's how we're doing better than 4 years ago.
Right. Well, congratulations. Sounds like things are working out for you. I'm glad to hear that. Some good news today. It's nice to hear. Okay, Aman, thank you for your call. Yeah, great points there. Yeah, well done. Okay, Andre in Kitchener. Andre. Hi, Andre. Right direction or wrong direction? What do you think about the direction Canada's going? Right direction or wrong direction?
Totally wrong direction, I believe.
Totally wrong direction. Okay.
I think they probably had good ideas, but bad planning, just like anything.
Okay. Good ideas, bad
belief.
planning. Right.
Pardon me?
That it's one thing to have the plan, but you actually have to execute on the plan.
Well, Rob,
right?
Let's say like Montreal, okay? Like I'm from the Laurentian in Quebec, and I love tourists from all over the world because of their activities. Now, when I moved to Montreal for more work, it's very divided and it's very pleasurable, right? And there's a lot of immigration and there's a lot of culture. We're now everywhere in Canada, so where I'm going with this is when your second question, right?
Better off, worse off?
Way worse. The fact is, I'm not just in that problem, because if I was only in that problem, there's enough space in Canada to go and live somewhere and to be convenient, right? Because like Kitchener is becoming one of the best cities in Canada.
Gotta go. Got you down. Thank you. Keeping track here.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Asking two questions today. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? And question number 2, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? Our call-in line, 1-833-668-2577. Eric in Cole Harbour. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good, Eric. Thank you. Right direction or wrong direction? What do you think?
I think the government is in the wrong direction.
Okay.
For two reasons. One is because of the economic disaster of how they handled COVID. And secondly, their immigration policy is unfair to the people that are coming here, because I'll give you an analogy. If you have a 2,000-room hotel, you can't book 5,000 people.
Sure.
So that creates lots of problem. And the last thing I'll say is demographers will tell you need a population rate of 2.1 in order for society to sustain ourselves. Our country hasn't done that for a long time. And that's because if you look at what's happening with the immigration, the government doesn't encourage families anymore. Maybe Quebec does, I think, but the rest of the country doesn't seem to have any emphasis in that. So I think those three things are a better problem. Am I worse off or better off? Well, I'm lucky. At age 77, I don't owe any money. But my disposable income, after all my bills are paid, is becoming less and less and less. So if I'm hurting, I can't imagine people that are in debt in order to survive. So I think everything's been handled, for the most part, incorrectly because of those three things.
All right. So you would say you're worse off then than you were 4 years ago?
Well,
because you have less disposable income.
Yes, exactly. Just because of disposable income, as far as living accommodations and being able to eat and all that kind of stuff,
Sure,
that's all cool.
Sure thing. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you.
You're
good
welcome,
to hear from
Have
you.
a good day.
Same to you. To Kyle in Listowel. Kyle, do you think the country's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
I was going to go for the other question.
Better off or worse off? Okay.
Yeah. So I would say I wouldn't say worse off, like as in like, oh my gosh, my life is over. But you know, like what you said, you justifying the $20 steak or whatever. How do you think that feels when you go to one of these fast food places and for two people it's costing you $45, $50 just to eat out at a fast food joint versus just a sit down meal? I mean, there's things like that I look back four years ago. And now I wouldn't say I'm struggling, but you're definitely, you're taking you a little bit longer now to put the same amount of money into a savings account if you want to go on vacation or you want to save a little bit more money for, like, let's say a new car or something. You know, the money is definitely, you got to stretch it out a little bit longer than you did 4 years ago. But that's where my take it is there on, Rob.
Okay. So well, let's get to the first question that I was asking. Just, you know, big picture. Do you think this country's going in the right direction or the wrong direction?
I think it's definitely going in the wrong direction. I mean, we have shortage of housing. You know, I'm not against immigration at all. My grandparents on both sides came from former Yugoslavia and Hungary. And, you know, like I said, like, I'm only second generation Canadian, so I have nothing against immigration, but you must plan ahead for the immigration that you have coming in. And I think that was a problem is they plan for the immigration, but where they plan for the places they're going to stay or live, right? I have no problem with, you know, hiring somebody, you know, to do a job, you know, just like as a Canadian. But again, you know, how are we going to support all this that's coming in, right? So I think how they handled it, it's definitely not in a good way. And, you know, it's kind of a shame that they say, well, we made a mistake on it. How do you make a mistake on it? Do you not go through the numbers, not just once, but twice, but, you know, double check 6 or 7 times? Like, it's frustrating to know what's going on. And then, you know, the raising of the tax, adding the carbon tax, things like that, like you know, like saying, I understand the environment side of things, but come on, you got to put Canadians first. And, you know, you hear people living paycheck to paycheck now and things like that, definitely in the wrong direction, Rob. So that's my take on it. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Kyle, for your call today. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Is Canada going in the right direction or the wrong direction? Question number 1. And are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? Question number 2. Ted in Halifax calling today. Thank you for calling, Ted. On question number 1, do you think this country's going in the right direction or the wrong direction?
Well, I think it's going in the wrong direction, and I'm approaching this not so much from specific. Some of your respondents have given really good specifics. I'm coming from the perspective of feeling, and my feeling over the last 4 or 5 years is that we're going down the wrong road. We're going the wrong way, and a lot of it has to do with taxes in particular, and waste, fraud, and corruption. That's my feeling of what's happening. Now, as far as my own particular situation, it's just myself and my wife are retired, and we're doing quite well. So I can't complain in that respect.
Okay, but are you doing better than you were 4 years ago?
No.
The prices are too high.
No,
prices are too high.
Much higher. Yeah.
Okay, but so despite doing well, you're probably worse off than you were 4 years ago.
We're definitely worse off.
Definitely worse off. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your call. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. Yep.
Okay, many phone lines available there, folks. And lots of time to take your call. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. It is Talkback on a Wednesday. Right direction, wrong direction, better off, worse off. Classic pollster questions today. Have your say. Here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? And are you worse off or better off than you were 4 years ago? 1-833-668-2577. Now, look, am I entirely surprised that most people have a kind of a negative opinion of where things are? No. But allow me to present, just for a second while I wait for some more calls, maybe a contrarian point of view, okay? If it was my job, it's not, but if it was my job to point out, say, some of the good things that are happening in the country right now, indications that the country may be headed in the right direction, what would I point to? Okay? The glass half full scenario, so to speak. Well, you could point to the inflation rate. We talked about that yesterday. 2.5 years ago, inflation was 8.1%. Yesterday, the report comes out, it's 2%. I know there's been a lot of pain along the way because of interest rate increases. The Bank of Canada increasing interest rates to beat back inflation. I'm not discounting that. I know that. I had to renew a mortgage too. But if I had to put a positive spin on things, if that was my job, if I was a spin doctor, okay, and point out things, hey, Canada's moving in the right direction. That's one of the things I would point to. Inflation has cooled a lot in the last 2 years. What is something else I would point to? Well, one of them would be, how much money are people making? Are people making more money now than they did 4 years ago, for example? So I looked it up. And the answer is yes. Yes, people are making more money. StatsCan tracks it all, of course, and one of its core measures is average weekly earnings. How much is the average worker making in a week? And 4 years ago, the average worker in Canada was earning, including all the overtime hours, $1,108 a week. 4 years later, according to the most recent report, the average worker in Canada is earning, including all overtime, $1,270 a week. So that is an increase in the last 4 years, just all averages, of course. It is an increase in average weekly earnings of 14.6%. Just an average, okay? Some people making more, some people making less, but yeah, average it all out. It's a 14.6% increase in weekly earnings in the last 4 years. I would say inflation down, wages up. What does that tell you? Can't be all bad, is it? Let's go to Joe in Calgary and ask him, what does he think? Joe, is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
Well, Rob, I think we're going totally in the wrong direction, and my reasons for saying that, I'm from an immigrant family myself, like fourth generation, born in Canada now, so I know what it's like. My grandparents moved over just before World War II or whatever, and anyway, but the problem now, I think, is that the immigration policies they have, we need to take care of our own people in Canada that are here now first, and make sure they have the jobs and the income, the lifestyle that they should have and they should be entitled to in a first world country. But the problem is that they're inviting way too many people at one time, and then they got this carbon tax on everything, which I spend way more on gas and all this other stuff that the carbon tax hits than I ever get back. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay, again, I would just remind you, the government disputes your claims. They say, Joe, if you have a family of four in Alberta, we're sending you $1,800 a year in carbon tax rebates. That more than covers whatever you're paying in carbon tax, Joe.
Yeah, the problem with that is that I'm a single guy, 60 years old, former electrician. Well, I'm still an electrician. I can't work in the trade anymore because my body is so messed up. So I'm working as a delivery driver for parts. And the company I work for is so cheap, they will not give raises, and if they do, it's like 10 cents a year.
Okay. All right.
And so, I went from 175 income a year to 40, plus I've got two pensions. I've got my union pension from the IDEW, and I've got now collecting CPP. I took it early, and I find I am in way, way worse shape now, like 4 years later than I was before. Like, I lost my condo, I lost my vehicles, I've lost everything in life. I'm renting a $1,000 a month room in a friend's basement, and it's just horrible how my life is went, and I'm struggling more and more every day. If it wasn't for my two pensions coming in, I would literally be living on the street here in Calgary because it's so expensive.
My gosh, Joe. Sounds tough. All right, Joe. You hang in there, buddy. Thank you for listening, and thank you for calling and outlining your view of it. Appreciate it. Time for one more. Mitch in Cochrane. Mitch is in Cochrane. Oh, Mitch is not there. Let's go to Vasco then. Vasco on the line. Hi, Vasco.
Good morning.
Good to hear from you. Is Canada going in the right direction or the wrong direction, Vasco? What would you say?
It's going in a wrong direction.
Okay, why is that?
I tell you one thing. Last time I called you, that's the first time I called you, and you asked me about the states, and I said Trump will gonna win the election with a landslide. Anyway,
well, I don't know if it was a landslide, but he won anyway.
Now,
yeah, okay.
Now, what I want to see, the government after lower the taxes for the businesses and bring the businesses to Canada so that Canadians can work, so won't get sick and tired of inflation and stuff like that. Put the taxes from China coming in here. We buy the stuff. 6 months later, I'm a tradesperson. 6 months later, guess what? I have to throw it in the garbage because no parts is no quality. And I'm an immigrant for over 65 years. If I can make it, anybody can make it, but you have to work for it.
Okay. So are you saying you think there should be tariffs? Are you saying that Canada should have tariffs like Trump wants to do tariffs? Is that what you're saying?
Tariffs for everything coming from China to the States and to Canada or direct.
Okay. I got you. Okay.
Chinese products are poor quality. Period.
Fair enough. Let me ask you the part two there. Are you, when you think back 4 years ago, are you better off now than you were then or not?
I'm retired at 55, but I work every day and I'm pushing 83 years of age to make ends meet.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Right. So are you worse off, Vasco?
I'm worse off, yes.
Worse off. Okay. I'm just because I want to keep track of everybody's answer here. Thank you for your call. Good to hear from you today. Vasco in Calgary. Okay, we'll stop.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So again, if you're just joining us, we're asking two classic pollster questions today, gathering your answers. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Question number one. Question number two, are you better off, worse off than you were 4 years ago? Right back to the phones. Martin is in Kitchener. Hi, Martin.
Going.
It goes, sir. Right direction or wrong direction? What do you think?
Well, hopefully in the next election we'll start heading in the right direction, so I do have optimism for that.
Okay.
As a business owner, I just recently sold my business, but prior to 2020, we had some of our most successful years. And then I saw a lot of my friends that had businesses, their businesses died after. We barely made it through, but we did because I stopped paying myself. I got rid of the employees. And it was a very turbulent time financially, went into great debt, spent my savings.
Right.
I have no retirement now. That's gone. And I was able to sell the business and not owe the government money. So that's the plus side of things, right? Okay. And I'm back out working as an employee again when I should be looking at retirement, right? So.
Okay.
But positive, my kids came out of it strong people. I kept them grounded. Good. But you did say something that struck a chord with me when you looked at StatsCan, and you said that we're making more money. Yes, we are, but the cost is up too. So the percentile, I've looked at this, is actually lower than it was pre-2020.
Okay, I'm comparing 4 years ago to today. Just comparing it, just getting the numbers out there. It's up. Average weekly earnings up 14.6% in the last 4 years. And the average hourly wage earned in Canada is up 5% year over year. That just came out in the latest jobs report for October. I was surprised to learn this. The average hourly wage in Canada now averages $35.76 an hour. $35.76 an hour. Gosh, I remember when I could only dream of making that kind of money.
I remember.
When I was in my 20s, if I was making $35 an hour, I thought I would have it made in the shade. And now it's the average hourly wage in Canada. It's kind of crazy to me. So look, when you think, I know it's been a tough 4 years for you.
Yeah.
So 4 years ago would have put us, November 20th of 2020.
Yep.
When you think about where you were then and where you are now, you say you're worse off.
Yes, because I was doing well.
Okay.
My kids had jobs, right? Yeah. And now they're all jobless. One's gone back to school. They're starting to find jobs now. I think the big problem, like I hear a lot of people complain, like I listen to your show on a daily basis, and we've gotten hit with high immigration in Canada. But the thing that really struck
okay, we're out of time, man. We've talked it right up to the very end.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Yes, it is hour number 2 of Talkback. Welcome to it as we ask 2 classic pollster questions today and gather your answers. Question number 1, is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Question number 2, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? Now, just before I get back to the calls, we do have this breaking news of particular interest to our friends in Alberta. There have been all kinds of rumors about former Prime Minister Stephen Harper taking over as chair of the board of AIMCO, the big pension fund manager in the province of Alberta. And it has now been confirmed in a statement issued on social media by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who says he is doing so on a pro bono basis because, quote, I believe it is a meaningful act of public service to my adopted home province of the last 46 years. I also feel uniquely positioned to help the organization improve its governance. Over several decades, Canadian pensions have earned a global reputation thanks to professional operations, upstanding ethics, and prudent risk management. I have accepted the role of board chair because I want to see AIMCO further embody these values and to positively contribute to this culture. I look forward to working with the new board of directors and AIMCO's new management team. So that is that's pretty big news for our friends in Alberta, and the manager of pension funds for some, believe it's almost 400,000 or so. Retired public servants in that province. So big news there. Let's get back to the phones on our topics of the day. Right direction, wrong direction, better off, worse off. Joe in Kitchener. Thanks for calling, Joe. You're on the line.
Good afternoon, Rob.
Yes.
Surely
Hi,
in your heart of hearts that you must believe that that's a rhetorical question. Canada is way worse off. Canada is a joke on the world stage. We got a PM with a geography degree and no real life experience. People are paying more and more with less quality of life. Tariffs of some sort are on the horizon. That'll cost us more and give us less profit, and them as well. We're about to get squeezed for our lack of military spending, or else what? What does that look like? Immigration is overblown, and we don't have the resources to take care of all the people that are here, that have come to this country looking for a better way of life. It's a joke, Rob. It's an absolute joke, and it's a crap show.
Okay. What about you? What about you personally, Joe? In the last 4 years, when you think back 4 years ago, where you were then, where you are now, are you better off or worse off?
I'm better off, but I'm like one of the few cases. I sold my business, not unlike the other poor guy from Kitchener. Feel for him, man. But I turned out good in that deal, and I'm okay for the time being. But the only constant in the universe is change. So that's what the hell I'm worried about, is the change is so radical that it might affect my ability to live my kind of lifestyle that I'm enjoying right now. If I was any better, there'd be two of me. So there you go. That's what I got.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's good. Good for you. From Joe in Kitchener to Joe in Calgary. Hi there, Joe.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. You guys
You're welcome, Joe.
You rock.
Well, thank you so much. Well,
in comparison to the soon bankrupt Coors talking heads over here.
That's okay. We don't need to talk about them.
What you're saying, what you've done is you've appealed to another sector of the population, people like us that own a small business and have revenue streams from not only from our business but from our pension and maybe a couple of rentals. So the reason my parents moved here in 1967 is because there was a song in Italy where they were talking about owning your own house. The problem right now is people that are coming into the country, they're not here to buy a new house. They're coming over here because it's cheaper for them to move here, get 2 or 3 jobs, work hard, and maybe give their kids a cheaper education than they would if they came here as overseas students.
Okay, I want to get to the kind of the heart of these 2 questions because I'm asking 2 pretty straightforward questions. Question number 1, is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? What would you say, sir?
Well, what you should be asking is you should get to know your listeners a little bit better and see where they're coming from, right?
Well, that's why I'm doing a show like this, sir. Okay.
Right. So the problem is when it's not one thing that's going to sink a business, and I've owned one for 47 years. I've seen a lot of businesses, a lot of competitors going down. And what it is, it's not one thing; it's a multiple of things. The problem with the Trudeau government is when they introduced quantitative easing, that sent prices right across Canada through the roof, and at the same time, it brought up the rentals. So now, if you can't rent and you can't own, you're lining up at the food bank because whatever the government, whatever you're getting, whatever money you're getting, especially if you're a single mom, it's not enough to cover the lights, to cover the electricity. It's not enough to feed your kids, and that's not Canada. That's not the Canada that my parents, because Canada wasn't the only country that my parents applied to get into. They applied to New Zealand, they applied to Australia, and they applied to Canada. And guess what? They didn't speak the language. A lot of people that come in right now, they speak the language. They know everything about WCB. They know everything about applying for a job at the government. Right? They're highly educated people. They're not stupid people. The problem is the governments are slow.
I'll put you down as wrong direction. Okay, given how little you've said that's positive about the state of the country right now, I'll put you down as wrong direction. I want to get at this part 2 of the question, and maybe this digs into where people are coming from, where they are in their lives right now. Okay, you think back 4 years ago and where you were, Joe, in Calgary then, and how you're doing now. Are you doing better or are you doing worse?
Get to know me a little bit better. I have a small business. I have kids that got B's and C's and got degrees. Out of the 5 kids, the one that's taking in $150,000, $200,000 cash a year is a master electrician in town here. The other ones are working for the government, and they're having a hard time after being at home for 4 years doing nothing, being unproductive. They're God forbid the government wants me to come back to work 2 days a week. How productive are you when you're in the office 2 days a week or 2 days a month?
Right. Okay. Wait. So how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, but because I hung on. Unlike other callers, I didn't have to dip into my savings. I didn't have to. What we did is we laid off a bunch of people. Right, and then what we're doing now is we're going 7 days a week, which is not very good for you. If you're 67, 70 years old, right? But we have no choice.
Sure.
Because when we go and sell a product, it doesn't matter if it's a cappuccino machine or a coffee bean. Guess what? It's going to cost us more to replace it. And what used to take 2 or 3 weeks to let's say to get equipment out of Italy can now be 6 months. What the governments have done in the G7 and G20, whatever, is they've broken the chain because they were too busy catering to the big chains, Canadian Tires, Walmart, Timmy's. They're not bringing these people in to work for me. They're bringing these people in to work for McDonald's.
Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up there. We're a little tight on time. I do thank you for your kind words. And we'll get to know each other as time goes by, hopefully. It's Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It's Talkback, but we also like to report the breaking news, even if it breaks during Talkback. So to the callers who are on the line, just hang on the line. This will be of interest to you. We're just a few minutes away here from the question period, starting again in the House of Commons. And Prime Minister Trudeau is back from the G20. He's likely going to be squaring off, of course, against opposition MPs who smell blood in the water. They want to take down Randy Boissonnault for all of these allegations against him about his claims to Indigenous identity, his claims that he owned a business, an Indigenous-owned business that went on to bid on contracts, win contracts that were set aside just for Indigenous-owned businesses. This latest report that his firm shared a post office box with somebody who was caught up in drug busts. Well, there's a statement that's just been issued by way of Cormac McSweeney, our parliamentary bureau chief. The Prime Minister and MP Randy Boissonnault have agreed that Mr. Boissonnault will step away from cabinet effective immediately. Mr. Boissonnault will focus on clearing the allegations made against him. Minister Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor will temporarily assume responsibility as Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Official Languages, in addition to her responsibility as Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defense. So that's it for now, anyway, for Randy Boissonnault and his time as a member of the Trudeau cabinet. One wonders what took them so long. More on that developing news story. Next newscast is at the bottom of the hour, of course. Petros in Calgary. Hello, Petros.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
Hello, Petros. Are you with me, Petros? I'm good, Petros. Thanks for calling. So back to our question here. Yeah. Do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
Absolutely in a wrong direction in many ways, in many ways, according to immigration, I just heard a couple of guys were speaking about the immigration. I'm an immigrant as well, as an immigrant, they stole my dream. The government stole my dream because, I couldn't find a job. I have 300 applications going on Indeed, LinkedIn, whatever you call it. I just applied it and no one contacts me. There is something missing, right? So which tells us there is something wrong. Which whether our the job is not enough job or it's not balanced, right? I'm an immigrant as well. I came a couple of years ago, which is 7 or 8 years ago. So I can see the difference. Back in the days, how I can get jobs. Right now, it's impossible. I can 300 application pending with a good Canadian experience.
My gosh.
So what's going on, So it's kind of frustrating, which tells us it's wrong. As compared to financial-wise, we're a little bit lower. Back in the days, we used to buy a gallon of milk $3.88. Right now, if you go to the store, it's $8. What's going on? There is something missing, right? It should be proportional. Our income should be proportional, right? Our income with the cost of living should be proportional. The house, you cannot, honestly, have, my dream. This was not my Canadian dream, to be honest speaking. My dream was big, to achieve, to have my own family, to buy a house, to build a house, and to be the part of the community, right, as an immigrant. I just want to do my part on this country, right? So, but unfortunately, those things are gone. Because, financially, I can't right now. It's very tough, to be honest. Whatever the money that you make, it goes out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I thank you for being honest today, and thank you for sharing your experience. Gosh, that's a very potent thing that you have just shared with us, Petros. My dream is gone. They stole my dream from me. That is really upsetting, actually, to hear. Okay, 1-833-668-2577. Sorry, we're a little behind on taking calls, but we did have Some big news stories to break for you this afternoon. Stephen Harper, the former Prime Minister, taking over AIMCO as the chair of the board, the big pension fund manager for Alberta pensioners, public sector workers. And as well, that's it for Randy Boissonnault. He is out of cabinet. It just became untenable for the Prime Minister. So I say he's at least out for now. He's going to try and clear his name. Be right back on the phones here on Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is the country moving in the right direction, the wrong direction? Question number 1 today. Question number 2, are you better off? Or are you worse off than you were 4 years ago? Nick in Alberta. I hope you're still with me there, Nick. I know it's been a bit of a wait today. Go ahead.
No big deal, Mr. Snow. I enjoy your program. Always listen to it when I can.
Appreciate that, sir. You think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction, Nick?
The wrong direction.
Okay. Why do you say that? Yes.
Because the parties are so interested in their own stuff, they're not worried about the country itself. Liberals want to do that. NDP want to do this. Conservatives want to do that. They're not worried about the country. They're only worried about their own issues. It's becoming a joke in politics.
Okay.
You take a week off for Remembrance Day and get paid for it. I wish I could take a week off for Remembrance Day and get paid for it.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a break week from the House of Commons and nothing's getting done in the House of Commons. I mean, when these MPs do go back to their ridings, there is, they're supposed to do constituency work and go to Remembrance Day ceremonies and things like that. It's not supposed to be a day off, so to speak, right? So
I'm not a politician. I've never become one because I don't know. But as far as the other question goes,
yeah, better off or worse off?
Better off than I was 4 years ago.
You are? Okay.
Yes, I am.
How
4
so?
years ago, I wouldn't even think about retiring. Now I got myself a good job,
good
smart planning, and a wife that knows how to stretch a dollar to its limits. 2
Good
weeks
for
on
you.
retirement.
Yes. You called me before. Before and mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds as though you getting married to the love of your life there, that turned out to be a really good decision on your part. Got you really straightened out there, it seems.
Well, we did have our problems in the beginning. I mean, every couple does, and we still have a few issues in that. But
sure.
45 years in December that we've been married.
Wow. Good for you. Congratulations. Yeah, it's quite a haul. My goodness gracious. Okay, look, we have to stop here. We're a little tight on time. There's all kinds of breaking news happening, and we want to fit in as many calls as we can, and we will do that in the home stretch of Talkback on a Wednesday. We follow all the developments and gather your opinion on the state of the country right now. This is News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we have 2 classic pollster questions on the go today. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? What would you say? And are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? Think back to late 2020. Now it's late 2024. Are you better off or worse off? Back to the phones. Herman in Calgary. Hi, Herman.
Thank you for taking my
Hello,
call.
Herman.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call.
You're
I
welcome.
want to preface everything to congratulate both my friends Danielle Smith and Stephen Harper for securing Alberta's future in the going forward. I think that's a brilliant move on both their parts.
Okay.
As far as the question as to whether or not we're on the wrong track, I think we absolutely are on the wrong track. And I think the Prime Minister, even worse, has lost the plot. I mean, how can somebody get up in public and say, your children should starve in order for me to keep my commitments to a green agenda, a green economy? His kids aren't starving. His kids are flying around the world on private jets and that sort of stuff. You know, when we're all living like he does, perhaps then we can talk about who's starving. But right now, his kids aren't, and a lot of Canadian kids are.
Okay, well, let's just hold on. Just for accuracy's sake, okay? He didn't say anybody's kid should starve. He said, David will pull up the clip for us, I believe.
Yeah,
David,
that'd be great.
You have that, okay? Just so we played this yesterday and we're going to play it again today. Go ahead, David.
Actually has become a way of helping with affordability and putting.
No, the other one, Dave.
Really easy when you're in a short-term survive. I got to be able to pay the rent this month. I got to be able to buy groceries for my kids, to say, okay, let's put climate change as a slightly lower priority. And that's something that's instinctive. When the storm comes, you want to hunker down and just sort of huddle up and wait for it to blow over. We can't do that around climate change. And unfortunately, we have an awful lot of political amplification of the kind of narrative that is directly opposed to that.
Right. Okay. So is he saying, and it's a good point that you're right, he didn't say starving. I just wanted to, get it out there. Is he saying that climate change should come before people being able to buy groceries or pay the rent? It's a good point that you raised there. Is that what he suggests? Sounds like that's what he's suggesting, right?
I would suggest that when, the money is tight and he's asking you to give up food or rent, that leaves you homeless or starving, doesn't it? I mean, that's somebody has never budgeted in his life, and we understand that now. We can take a look at the state of the country's finances too. But the real issue is, if he's saying that my kids and my home are behind the climate, well, let me tell you, when he gets on private jets with his kids for vacations, for international treaties, and everything else like that, and he's not walking that walk. It's why he needs to go.
All right. Okay. Let's think about this other question here. Are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? What would you say?
Well, if it was precisely 4 years ago, and we were still in the throes of a pandemic, most of Canadians and who were thrown out of work, we're getting only $2,500 a month and so I guess on the face of it, we're looking at November 2020 to November 2024, probably better off now. But if you're looking at November, say 2019, oh heck, I am so worse off. During COVID, I had to, run up my home equity line of credit. It's still going to take me another year or two to pay that off.
Okay. Thank you for your call, sir. Good to hear from you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Moving right along here. Virginia is on the line. Hello, Virginia.
How are you?
I'm good, Virginia.
Hello?
Do you think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction, Virginia?
Well, to be honest with you, I agree with the other two gentlemen that were on the phone here. We are definitely moving in the wrong direction. As long as Prime Minister Trudeau stays in power, we'll sink like a ship, like Titanic. And to be honest with you, there was no excuse for this. I firmly believe that this was all a deliberate part of his agenda or his plan to make Canada what he thought it should be. And it's not everybody's dream to be what he wants. And so he used it to get what he wants, and everybody else is suffering because of it. And to get out of this mess, there is a slight hope of getting out of this mess. But we're going to have to dig in our heels and work real hard, because otherwise the hammer's going to come down. And if we don't work to straighten these problems out and get Trudeau out of power, and a lot of these other corrupt politicians that are in there, we're going to sink. And it's not going to be pretty. And we got a very limited amount of time before that happens. And I'm talking about Armageddon, okay?
Okay, well,
it's banging on our door. So that's where we're at. And if you want to know if I'm worse off, yes, I am worse off than I was 4 years ago.
Okay.
And the mess that we're in,
Okay.
it will take at least 150 or 200 years to fix this frickin' mess, if we're lucky.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. All right. I hope it doesn't take that long. Okay. And there's enough talk about Armageddon. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, given everything that's going on in the world. Where are we off to next? Brian, calling from Calgary. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, Brian, do you think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
It's moving in the wrong direction.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Well, we've lost our moral moorings. We are fiscally irresponsible, and we've just given in to the woke agenda. And I think that's
woke
everything
agenda. Okay.
is heading in the wrong direction.
Okay. Now, just personally speaking, your own circumstance in life, when you think back to how things were 4 years ago compared to how things are now, what would you say? Are you better off or worse off, sir?
I would say probably the same, if not a little bit worse off.
The same.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit worse off. Okay. And if you're a little bit worse off, what's going on there? Why do you think that is, sir?
I think it's just because of a lack of budgeting and looking after the pennies that we've got. I am retired.
Right. Okay. You are retired. Okay.
Yeah, and I am an
and
immigrant.
your dollar's not going... Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate your call today, Brian in Calgary, first-time caller. We will stop here, and when we come back, more of your calls. Go to Toronto, go to Calgary.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Two classic polling questions for you today. Pollsters ask these kinds of questions all the time. The political parties hire pollsters so they know your opinion on these questions. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Question number one. And question number, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? To the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Jack is on the line. Hi, Jack.
Oh, hello, Rob. We only have René Levesque and the Quebecois to thank for Toronto being what it is today. I think that most of us are worse off, specifically those who are, the middle class, making 60 or 80 below. It's very difficult to do. So that's one thing, inflation. So monetary policy is bad. There's only one place to lay that is Krista Freeland and Justin Trudeau. But the main thing is that people have, I think a lot of people have lost hope and given up trying because, and if they are trying, they're working two jobs or one job, and it's just simply not enough for them to get ahead, never mind pay their bills. I mean, you're supposed to get ahead and save for the future, right? So you can take care of yourself. So that's the first issue is the inflation and affordability. The second thing is this housing interest rate thing. Everyone's happy the interest rates are coming down. I know they're very happy. But we're just going to go through this cycle one more time where we increase the cost of housing again because it's more affordable, so prices will go up because people will spend what they got. And I think that the housing crisis will continue. Obviously, condos are getting crushed. But at the end of the day, I think we're just kicking this down the road to another day. It's an election year, so interest rates are down. Housing prices are starting to stabilize, maybe even going back to a seller's market this spring. But these people go for the easy fruit, right? And I'm talking about the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party of Jean Chrétien is gone. Whoever votes because of Jean Chrétien can pack that away and say, forget it. There's no such thing as a Chrétien Liberal. Axworthy just wrote a book, actually. I'm going to go to his signing event. But the thing is, that's a Chrétien Liberal. That's a different thing. Today's the Liberal Party has been hijacked by people who tear us apart by our feelings issue, whether it be LGBT or abortion or, race or gender or income, all these divide and conquer issues that it's just the wrong focus. And I think that they don't have a focus other than, no, hang on, let me finish. And the third point is that the party, the Liberal Party, doesn't know how to execute. They don't know how to manage a file. They have so much corruption going on right now. I think that's a huge concern for us. But I truly believe that we've gone in the wrong direction. I'm in my late 50s. I did pretty good in my life. I'm sort of set. But so am I better off? No, I make less money, but I don't have the expenses of a family anymore. So that's my thought on it, Rob, there.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your call. Just on, I was kind of looking some stuff up on housing. There's been some relief on mortgage rates. I was surprised how little relief there's actually been, though. I was looking at a chart this morning produced by WOWA.ca, WOWA.ca. The good stuff on that site. Mortgage rates really peaked October of 2023. 5-year fixed posted mortgage, 7.04%. 7.04%. So with the stress test, people had to qualify at 9%. 13 months later, that same average 5-year fixed mortgage rate, 6.49%. So it's come down, but it's only come down by 55 basis points. I'm a little surprised it hasn't come down more than that. Maybe a mortgage broker can get you a better rate than that, but I found that to be interesting. Let's take Valerie's call here. Valerie, you're on the air. Hi, Valerie.
Hi. Can
Valerie,
you hear me?
do you think the country's going in the right direction or the wrong direction? Yes, I hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say thanks for taking my call, and I love your show. It's excellent. And I think that we're probably going in the right direction now because they have announced changes like less immigration and things like that. So I think we're going in the right direction. And myself, am I better than 4 years ago? No, because of course I get a pension, and if taxes go up 8%, I still only get 2%. So, but I'm okay. That's it.
Thank you, Valerie, for your call. Okay, we will stop here and come back. We'll kind of wind things down for this midweek edition of Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Right direction, wrong direction. What direction is Canada moving in? Right direction, wrong direction. Better off, worse off. Are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? That's what we've been asking our callers on Talkback today. Right back to the phones. Rick in Calgary. Hi, Rick.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
Hello, Rick.
Hi, how are you doing,
good,
sir?
Rick. What would you say, Rick?
Well, just take a look around. Food banks are more popular than grocery stores. We're running out. I constantly hear our food banks are running low. I would say the country's definitely heading in the wrong direction, because if we were heading in the right direction, you wouldn't see food banks running out of food. You wouldn't see all these organizations begging for more money, and it's sad to see that. And I'm the guy with the daughter that keeps moving back in. It is the boomerang kid, I call her. So as I see it, yeah, not a great way the country's heading.
What about in your own personal circumstance, Rick? You think back 4 years ago and where you are now. Are you better off or worse off?
Well, I used to work oil and gas, and I don't anymore because I had 4 heart attacks, and they let me go. So, am I better off? No. Am I getting by? Oh, yeah. Right. I picked up another job. I'm getting by, but it's everybody I see around me is definitely struggling.
Okay, I thank you for your call. Thank you for your call. I'm going to take just maybe one more quick call here, if we can fit Eric in Halifax. Hello, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
I'm good, Eric.
Well, the first thing I'd like to talk about, I think they got no other choice but to move ahead, whether they will or not, because they want to keep their jobs. So that's what I feel about, it's a 50-50. Sometimes they're going good, other times they're going bad, so it's halfway. And they got to keep their jobs. And secondly, 58 years ago, I was working for $1 an hour. In 2017, I retired from the city of Halifax, and I was making $21 an hour. And if I could hold up for the last week of November, I'd be doing great. But I always find out the last month of mine, because I'm on pension, that I have a hard time making ends meet. So that's my story about that one.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much. I think that'll be all the calls that we will take. I think you really have to look at the strain on social services these days if you're looking at how difficult it is right now. And this is data that I pulled out of a report less than 2 weeks old from Statistics Canada, the government's own statistical agency. 3 in 10 Canadians living in a household that is having difficulty meeting its financial needs. That is right from Statistics Canada in its most recent employment report. 28.8% of Canadians over the age of 15 are living in a household that is finding it difficult or very difficult to make ends meet. And it even defines what it means by that. These Canadians are living in households that are struggling to cover all the costs of transportation, housing, food, clothing, and necessary expenses. Now, it used to be worse, but it also used to be better. Here's what I mean. 1 year ago, 33% of Canadians over the age of 15 were in that position. 2 years ago, it was 35%. So on the bright side, I guess you could say it's down to 28% now. But here's the thing. 4 years ago, are people better off or worse off than they were 4 years ago? In October of 2020, this number was 20%. And only at that time, a shamefully high 1 in 5 Canadians said they were living in households that were struggling to make ends meet. And now it's 28%, almost 29%, if we're rounding off. It's a lot worse for renters and a lot worse for recent immigrants. So that's not good. It means millions of people are not better off. I'm Rob Snow. Back tomorrow, brand new topic tomorrow. Hopefully more of your calls as well. Latest breaking news is next. This is News Radio.